All right. It is 7:05 p.m. on October the 3rd. I'm calling to order this meeting of the Wabash Township Board. Roll call, please.
Fire chief,
Yeah.
township trustee,
Here.
board president,
Here.
board secretary here, final board member.
Here.
All right. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is the approval of the previous board minutes. Did anybody have any issues? I did not. Move to approve. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Township updates. Is there anything you guys want to do in terms of a quick update before we jump into public hearings?
I'm going to skip mine.
I'm sure things will come up and we can always do an update in 2 weeks.
Sure.
Okay, so first order of business is convening a public hearing to consider the additional appropriation of $175,000 to the cumulative fire fund and to invite public comment from the audience. Let's go ahead and get this presentation started. If you have contents that you want me to put up here.
So I just have the resolution, which is available on the site.
Okay.
Number 12.
Yes, number 12.
I feel like this was larger the last time we spoke about it. And it came down to wasn't it 250 the last time we talked? And now it's 175?
No,
Or was it always 175? My memory just sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions from the board that have not been resolved over documents and emails?
So, just a quick thing, that resolution allows us to, we've had a lot of backlog projects, and I know that I've spoken, but I've called all of you. I don't know if I spoke with all of you. It's been a while since I reached out. And we've had a lot of backlog projects. And so we were trying to decide, do we want to get it done this year and essentially move back to regular order for the Cuban Fire Fund next year? Or do we want to keep it at this time, wait and prolong some of those projects and then push them into next year and do a larger amount for the budget? In conversations, I believe the board members indicated a preference for getting it done early. So this allows us to be able to get it out of the way and next year fall into a regular routine with the budget. So that's what this.
And perhaps cost less.
Sorry?
And perhaps cost less.
That's right, because we're avoiding ridiculous maintenance, especially with some of the back stuff, some of the repairs that need to be done for improvements to the building in particular are ones that could become more expensive. So
Yeah. Penny wise, pound foolish is not the way to go. Okay, I don't see any members of the public in the room, and Travis is the only one on the Zoom. So unless Travis has public comment.
I think it's fair to say no.
I had a feeling. Okay, so move for a vote on resolution 2023-12, authorizing the additional appropriations for the cumulative fire fund. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion to close the public meeting. All in favor? Aye. All right,
To reopen it.
now we're gonna have to reopen a public meeting on a different topic to consider the 2023 township budget as public comment on both things so that we don't get cross wires. Open one, close it, open it on a different subject, close it. I believe, it's mandated, isn't it? To have this
Hearing,
as
yeah.
a separate hearing for
Yeah.
just the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, opening a public hearing to consider the 2023 township budget as noticed on September the 7th. We have a budget presentation that Angel will walk us through, and then we will go through any public comment and move to adopt a resolution for appropriations and tax rates, which we will then finalize in 2 weeks. So Angel, would you like to?
I'll do it from over here if that's okay.
If you can take over the Zoom, that's fine. I can max it out.
Yeah, so let me make sure. so that I can pull up the right presentation. Slideshow.
Who put the anonymous jacket logo? Can somebody have it open?
Awesome, man.
Yeah, probably. It just assigns you, it assigns you random names if you're not signed
Somebody-
down.
Somebody in the.
Yeah.
Oh, on the document.
All right.
It's probably me. Actually, I'm not kidding.
Jacket logo.
It just gives you random animals. I don't
Oh,
know why. So this is a shorter version of the presentation that we kind of went over the last time. I figure that I bored you all with details and the numbers didn't really change much since the last time that we met. So the first thing, I tend to start with the hardest fund, which is the firefighting fund. And so we had a couple of things come up, and you can minimize that. So we had a couple of significant changes in this. Last one was the increase in professional services from last year to this year. We're holding steady at 10 firefighters, 3 per shift, 1 floater. And that would be a 20% increase is what we did for the standard position. The other thing that we did was we rounded out the percentage of what a firefighter's first class pay is for each position. Additionally, we are creating a position, or in this budget proposal, we're creating a position for a fire department assistant that would lead to the township trustee. So the township administrator, which is Amy, moving over to the general fund, so being paid out of general fund. The assistant would work about 24 hours per week with a $22 per hour salary. And then we also had increases in repairs and maintenance costs. And so I know that last year we said we didn't know exactly where we would land on the ratios for the following year. We put a ratio that we thought was good, and then this year we corrected based on our actual pattern of expenditures thus far this year. So that's kind of it for the general fund, for the firefighting fund. I wanted to note there was a less than 1% change from the budget framework that I presented. The only change was we finalized the expected cost of the insurance policies for the building itself. We also went through and finalized the pump, which is tied to that as well. The total budget is 1.571 million, and change. With the property tax, our miscellaneous revenues, and then the decrease that we see in actual money coming in because of the property tax cap, we expect to be able to essentially match out even to. So we're not planning on using any of our money that's left over. So we're not going to use the operating budget that's remaining. This would be a rate of 13.20 cents. It is equivalent of allocating 73.91% of the levy. So we're still leaving $519,000 on the table for this year. For the Cume Fire Fund, that's the one that's kind of one of the ones that's on autopilot. Just reauthorizing it at the 3.33 cents per $100 of certified net assessed value. That one is we expect to bring in, this is based on 90% of CNAV. So we expect that it'll bring in at least $371,000 from the levy. And then the estimated miscellaneous revenues are going to be about 15,900, and then we're going to lose about 400 in property tax cap impact. So we're still, even with this more conservative estimate, we're already going to be bringing in more money than we're budgeting. So for this particular fund, the fire debts fund, we usually have a higher levy. So I'll make a note of that. That's the finalized budget there. That's so that we can finish off paying engine 602. DLGF recommended that we set this fund so that it calculates to an operating balance of 0 at the end of 24. And then when we get new debt, they'll set up a new process for it. So that's why it's a little bit lower than in previous years. So it's only 94,000 instead of like 102. And so that one will bring in about $97,000. And regardless of what we adopt here in this final budget, at the end of the process, when everything is recalculated after the 1782 notice, the state will make sure that this levy matches what we actually need to be able to pay for the fire service debt. So we're essentially authorizing it to end up at zero at the end of the year. I'll pause here. Any questions on the firefighting funds?
Can I provide a little explanation real quick? I think Ian may be the only one that I was able to talk to about it, but some questions I know have come up in the last meeting about professional services and trying to maybe divide some of that stuff out. And on how I've talked about it quite a bit, at least for me, maintaining professional services, it's a fund that I look at as we don't have something tangible once a bill is paid out of that. So maintenance contracts, agreements, things like that, stuff that we don't have something tangible we can put our hands on is a professional services bill to me. Just because that's one of the services place where we won't necessarily have, like a truck repair bill coming out of or something like that. So I just wanted, I guess, for just clarification, that's my mindset with it. And there was a lot of things historically that have been paid out of a lot of other funds that are those things. For me, it was just easiest to kind of pull all those things together under that professional services kind of umbrella, that we're being offered a service by somebody, we're paying that contract fee, or we're paying whatever that thing is, but we don't have something here you can put your hands on as being paid out of that. So that's why there's more stuff coming out of professional services than there historically has been. A lot of that stuff's been divided. Pest control, stuff like that was always building maintenance. It wasn't professional services. I just tried to pull all that under one kind of umbrella. So, and I know there was at one point some question about the fire department assistant. I'm buried, absolutely buried. So it's just that ability to be able to offload some of that same stuff that Amy's been doing in terms of like getting bills open, prepared, being able to handle some administrative things. That's not also pulling Amy away from township assistant side of things. So there's more than enough work to be done there, but we felt like limiting it to 24 hours was just kind of get an idea of how that will work. I'm pretty sure that we can kind of break it up enough to be able to get all the stuff done and be able to get more things actually probably completed, but being able to be flexible with the hours, I thought made a significant difference. So
Ed, have you seen an increase in the amount of work that you have to put in, or handheld for Amy with the jump in new firefighters and certifications, training?
oh yeah, well,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's significant. I mean, not just in the paperwork side of things, but well, I mean, the onboarding paperwork, but follow up with, insurance company getting all their tax documents together, insurance documents together, all those things. Our folks that are in the academy right now, there's a lot of paperwork exchange in place between us and Lafayette with them being in the academy. And there's just a whole lot of that administrative stuff that I end up spending the bulk of my time doing. Not that Amy doesn't have time to do it. It's I've been pretty open and forward about, I want to make sure that even though part of her salary right now is being paid out of the fire side, I want to make sure all of her township stuff is squared away first. So there's just been a lot of that stuff as well. She's been helping out township assistant stuff. So I've been handling a lot of that stuff.
This frees you up to actually do the stuff.
It will free me up to be the fire chief. Yeah, I mean,
And it allows us to also, there's a lot of pieces that go into it that even right now, Ed has been getting pulled in that direction. Part of it is even on payroll, like having to go through, and we've been a growing department, obviously, and we've also added programs, and we've had to go back and like change like how we do payroll for certain stuff, because some of our firefighters get paid that's both tax exempt for one piece and another part is not tax exempt. And so we've had to go back and essentially work with our vendor to like recreate everything from scratch. And it's a long process, and takes a lot of time.
I think that's the biggest difference for us is, and I've said it a lot, and that's that most organizations, they have a framework and a foundation underneath them. So if you're a new firefighter coming in, you plug a hole and you follow the process that they have. If you're a new fire chief, you come in, and this is just kind of past precedence of the way things are done. over the last 3 years, everything we do is new and different. So we're building that foundation as we go. So we're hitting a lot of those hurdles that a lot of municipalities don't, because they've had those things kind of in place for a very long time. So, talking about the payroll process, that's our vendor. I mean, us being onboarded with our vendor, it's kind of a headache for them sometimes because of our 24-hour shifts. They're not used to that. So now they've brought on other fire departments, but insurance providers, I mean, there's just always these things that we seem to spend a lot of time in the muck just trying to figure out. So I think I think having Amy still, even though she'll be, full-time trustee's office and not doing fire stuff, I think having her with the assistant that we bring on board, they'll be able to get the bulk of that stuff done. I mean, there's a ton of things that especially with Joe being on shift right now, we've got 2 guys on light duty right now that were injured. Not bad, but so Joe's working a shift. So it's all of that stuff is piled back on me, and I don't mind doing it, but there's a whole lot of other things I'm just not able to get done doing all that stuff. So
technically it doesn't fall under your jurisdiction.
a lot of it shouldn't necessarily, but I mean,
Because
we
it's
got with limited staff, I mean, in administration anyway. I mean, I want Joe's our operations chief. I want Joe to be able to focus on the operations of fireground stuff and things like that. So we're just limited on the people that we've got to be able to handle a lot of those things. So we're getting there. It's just a much slower process probably for us in a lot of places, and everything's just so new that I'm not a believer in just doing things because it's the way we've always done things. So that's also some of my own fault that I want to try different things, but it's all been good. It's just been a slow process. Yeah.
Thank you.
For the other fund, so going on to unless there's other questions. For the general fund, the significant changes, so we did a cost of living adjustment, 4% increase in salaries for elected officials to the board, and then the township administrator, and then, and myself as an elected official as well. So the board, me and Amy would see a 4% increase in salary. We also increased the internship funding. Right now we were paying $10 an hour. We wanted to be able to get more folks for future years, so we increased that funding to $15 an hour. We also created a township assistance case manager position, which is the one that I outlined before. We've been already like the second half of the year has been crushing us a little bit. Just through the end of September, let me pull up what that number was. I know I shared all the documents with you guys, but just to make sure that I got you the right amount. So we'd already spent at least $33,000. Let me pull up the actual number.
Was our budget 37?
55 this year.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of pace to meet it. Let me pull up the report here. So we expect that we'll use some of that township that will use some of the money from the rainy day fund to cover some of the township assistance pieces for this year. So that's one of those pieces that we're seeing a lot more need. And simultaneously, it's also we're wanting to be able to do more work with the individual. Right now, I only have the time really to be able to do a quick intake. We don't have the ability to really guide people through the process more hand in hand to make sure that they get other resources, that we're able to ask all the questions that we have when it comes to like what their situation and being able to actually help beyond this immediate.
That's your case manager.
And that would be the case manager position. So right now we have spent $47,000. So we've spent 85% of the funding through 75% of the year. So we're probably going to end up about, I anticipate that we'll end up at about $61,000, which is a little bit, we'll have to bite into, as I mentioned, the rainy day fund to be able to cover.
And then anticipate probably another growth spectrum the following year.
Yeah, and so that's part of what we're also seeing there with the, that last piece, and I'll skip the supplemental funding. So township assistance, we're doing $25,000 in addition to the money that's in the township fund, township assistance fund. We've been trying to do, and this is a moment where I also have some bad news. We have tried to do the 3-year appeal that you guys had authorized. With the change in deduction structure for property taxes, it actually hurt urban townships or more suburban to urban townships. So the certified net assessed value grew less this year, and so we ended up falling way below the state average for this year. And as a result of that, we ended up not being able to use that 3-year appeal. In fact, we won't be able to do it for another couple of years. Probably through the first year that we might be able to is the last year of my term. So what we are going to have to do is go through this process. We were already going to have to use money out of this fund, but we're going to have to rely more on the general fund. It won't be a big issue for following years because we're still anticipating that we'll see an increase in local income tax as a result of the continued increase in fire protection levy. So we'll have some more sustained funding coming through. But part of what our hope is, there is an appeal process that's a little bit more challenging. So I don't want to promise that this one is very objective. Like, here are the metrics, here's how you can qualify for it. And only one little piece of it is subjective. There's this whole other appeal process that's authorized by Indiana legislature that is just the board has to approve the funding for the budget that is enough to meet the need of township assistance. And so that's a very subjective argument. So there's a couple of certified public accountants that work with CPAs that work with townships that have experience doing that levy appeal. So that's something that I'm exploring for next year. But it's going to be harder to get than this one. This one's very simple. You know, here's how much you could qualify for, show us that your budget needs it. And that was it. This one is going to be more challenging because there's no like set delineation. And for us, we're significantly under what we need for township assistance based on our population. We're far behind Frankfurt, far behind Lafayette with Fairfield Township. We're far behind a lot of municipalities with comparable size. And it's just something that's not up to the control of the board or the trustee. It's based off of previous levies that were set by previous.
So if, let's say that appeal doesn't go through and we wait until that last year of your term to
Then we
do
want
another request, can you do a rough estimate of how much money they're gonna have to slide out of general fund for to cover the 3 years, or the 2 years?
well, so even the appeal itself, if we've been able to every 2 years or so, we would probably be able to have squeezed out about $5,000 extra dollars in maximum levy each year. So we probably by the end of my term would have been at close to 85, it's close to 100 when you take into account like the yearly increase in those. We probably will be closer to 80, 85, it's closer to 85 by the time that my term's done with this one. So it's 15,000. Now, the interesting part about it is that this subjective one doesn't necessarily have the same constraints. So we could end up ahead. It's just that I can't guarantee that. I have to assume that we're not going to get any of the appeals in following years. And so we'll probably be at about 85 in that case. Now we'll be set for a while and that we can use general funds to be able to supplement that township assistance. And so pay township assistance out of the general fund. That's what we're doing here. I think that next year we would probably have about $100,000 in assistance need just based on the growth, and we're nowhere near meeting all of the need.
And what does the 25 get us to?
100 for
Okay.
this year.
So it's going to be 25 grand a year out of the general.
Probably a
fund.
little more in future years, but yeah.
Increase.
Yeah. But I probably would foresee, and this is a guesstimation. I don't have, hard data in front of me. I think that if we were doing the job right, based on the distribution of income in our township, We would probably be able to do it well with $150,000 in assistance, even though that's a lot less than other places have. We do have significant portions of our population that just will never need assistance, right? And other places, so we have pockets of need, and probably that would get us there. And we should be able to, by the end of my term, do that without really having any negative effect on the general fund or anything like that. But for this year, this is what we can fund without really affecting our funding. So to show you, oh wait, I was the wrong slide, so. To show you what the budget is, right now, this one, our budget comes out to $325,000. Now, our revenue for this year is $315,000. I want to make a caveat that there's two pieces there. Our next lit estimate is supposed to be higher than this one, so it'll be more than that. And then in addition to that, we also get supplemental lit. Where the supplemental lit has ranged in the last 5 years or so for us, between $5,000 and $13,000, when we were getting significantly less lit. With an increased total lit, it could range anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 that we get in supplemental lit. There's just no way of knowing what that is. But I expect that we'll still come out actually ahead, where we'll get more money into the fund. But I can't promise that, so I'm assuming here that we're taking a $10,000.
I'd really be conservative.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm doing. I'm being conservative there in that estimate. Now, our fund is still in very healthy shape. So we have about $180,000 in the general fund right now. So like at the end, we're expecting to end up at about $180,000 at the end of the year. So we'll be able to meet that without really affecting it negatively. Now, for the last one, the Township Assistance Fund, that's the one I just explained. We see about a $75,000 budget. We believe that with our levy and our miscellaneous revenue, we'll see about $70,000 after the property tax cap. So that's the other part that's biting us. The tax cap is affected by West Lafayette taxes as well. So we get a significant chunk removed as a result of people hitting the circuit breaker. So that's also part of the reason why we know that we need to increase that levy rate over time. So that's why I'm planning on doing any appeal that we can for this fund. But that's just the situation that we're at with this fund. So that is that one. Rainy day is pretty simple. There's no levy to it, no levy or anything. It's based off money that we've saved. And so I'm estimating that we could put up to 25,000, that we wouldn't need more than 25,000 in rainy day if anything went wrong. So
Can you circle back to the general fund, and why is that one also a zero levy? If that one is-
Okay. Yes. All right. So I'll go there. Thank you for.
I'm
that
sorry.
question.
sorry.
No. So the general fund and the township assistance fund share a single levy, like a maximum levy. And so the board could distribute it however it sees fit. The trustee can request it however he sees fit, and then the board can approve it based off of that. What we decided was that we wanted to move all of the levy to the township assistance fund. Because that one, that one's the one that's very restricted, right? Township assistance fund is explicitly for township assistance only. And so the township assistance fund one, we try to maximize it as much as we could, and that's what we're doing there. With the increase in local income taxes, we're funding general fund exclusively out of local income taxes. And so the other ones that are for different funds, excise tax, commercial vehicle excise tax, that's the CVET, the financial institutions tax, all of those, we won't get any money in this fund because we're not levying there. So all of that money is going to go to the township assistance fund. So, but the local income tax, which is the one that we increased from 180,000 or so to 315 for this year, just based off of our levy increases. That one can only be deposited in the general fund. So given what our needs were, we just figured move everything that we can to the township assistance fund and then spend additional money that we need for township assistance out of the general fund, which can be used for any purpose. So
Okay.
does that answer the
In
question?
layman's terms, you want to make sure that the maximum amount of money that can be allocated to the township
That's
assistance
right.
fund is going to the township assistance fund. Because the general fund can be funded by just the local income tax.
Correct.
So basically, it's all about the way the state says you can use this for these things, but not for anything else, and
Right.
this for these things. So basically, they're sending everything the way, as much each way as they can go, but know that like general fund, if they're short in township assistance, they can pull from the general fund over and cover that, but they can't pull from the township assistance fund over here to cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just plain.
So in the
it's plain and
future,
simple.
if the township assistance fund needs more funding, we can pull it from the general fund.
Yeah.
We just can't
We can.
individually put it in there. Is that
Yeah,
the point?
so we can spend it out of general. It's the same thing with the fire department, actually. So assume that we needed $100,000 that we just couldn't reach any other way. We could try to allocate money from the general fund to be expended for fire purposes. Because the general fund can be used for any purpose that the township is allowed to. So it doesn't have to, yeah. So that was the rainy day fund. And these are the property tax rates here, just to show you guys. So the total unincorporated township tax rate would be 17.33 cents per $100 of assessed value. Still very low compared to most municipalities. And then in West Lafayette, because the bulk of our expenses are from fire protection, that's a negligible amount. It's like 0.2, a quarter of a cent per $100 of assessed value. And that one is always just going to be the maximum of the civil township levy. So those are what those rates would be for next year with this budget. Any questions?
Why aren't the comparison for the firefighting funds?
Because the
there?
firefighting, we don't levy in the city of West Lafayette, because West Lafayette levies there for fire protection. So we only levy money for fire protection outside of city limits. So if you're in city limits, you don't get taxed from us for fire protection.
Okay.
You pay taxes to the city of West Lafayette.
These are the only ones that you can make a direct comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the first three, which are the same rates, and then on the unincorporated side, there's the additional levies for fire. Any other questions? I made it short as possible.
We covered a lot of it last time.
Yes. All right, so I can stop sharing then, and then the share can go back.
Who else is in here still?
I believe it is still the same.
Same people, all right. So I will take that as no public comment. We had no further questions, so I will move to vote on resolution 20. Yes,
That one, we're presenting it, but you can't vote on it. Because it has to wait 10 days.
okay.
Yeah.
So we're putting the resolution in as a presentation for adoption in 2 weeks.
Yes, so it's essentially a table immediately. But
Okay,
That's
Okay.
15,
yes, that is
on this-
15.
number 15.
Yeah, number
Yes.
15, correct.
Okay, so we shall table that for now and we will come back in 2 weeks.
And you guys can see if you want it. I know that it's already shared, so you guys can pull it up. But that resolution has the levy amounts, the total. It also includes the additional budget for the health issues and challenges grant. That's the MIH funding. But that's separate and it's authorized separately in this process, so you don't have to do anything.
As far as the minutes, do I mark down that Ian moved to table the adoption of the resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, resolution 2023-15 tabled until the next meeting. I will make a motion to close the public hearing on the matter of the budget.
So move second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. I will take it that there's still no public comment on regular, old and new business, so we will keep moving. And we have a gobsmacking number of resolutions
Yeah.
to go through. Most of these are very simple, but there are many of them.
So I would I would recommend, well, straight up, you can move to table 18 and not touch it today. I haven't been able to finalize everything that we need there for that one. That's the only one that we have, that doesn't have anything right now.
Okay, otherwise we're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll table it when we get there. We'll
Yeah.
start at the top. Resolution 2023-13 to approve the 2023 budget for the IDHS Newborn Safety Device Grant. I believe we've talked about this several times. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask before we move to vote? All right, move for a vote on resolution 2023-13. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right, resolution 2023-14. Resolution to approve 2023 budget for the 2023 GLIC
Can you hear this?
CARES Fund. Yes, please. Go ahead and write. Angel, do you want to give a two sentence overview of the GLIC CARES Fund while we're waiting for?
Yeah, so this was a
Catch up.
grant that we were able to apply for up to $10,000. We got $3,000, which is the same as most other entities in town got from it. And based on that and what we told them that we would be using it for, we indicated that we would use it for township assistance for rent, utilities, and then for transportation, which is not, transportation is something that we can't fund generally out of township assistance. But when we get a grant, we can use it for other stuff, right? So we are purchasing 31-day bus passes and bus tokens. And then for the purpose of MIH, we also wanted to make sure that there was money available for medical transport if patients needed that. And then also for folks that have some sort of disability, there's a different type of public transit called Access, which is managed by City Bus as well. So we put some money aside for those different categories, and then we put $700 towards rent and utility combined. And that makes it a $3,000 fund.
Which resolution is it?
14.
Was 14. Now, this would also do a secondary purpose, this resolution, and it would be that it would establish a fund for all private grants. And so the process under it would be that the trustee would be able to, if we get another grant, establish a sub fund, and you guys would be informed of it. You would still need to approve the budget, but I can establish a sub fund so that I can deposit money in it when we get
Okay.
receipt of grants. So that's all there is to that resolution, Rick.
Good. I like it. Any other questions before we move to vote? All right, motion to vote on resolution 2023-14.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Resolution 2023-16, establishing salaries of township officers and employees for 2024. We just went over this in the budget discussion. Any additional questions before we move to a vote? Okay. Motion to bring resolution 2023-16 to a vote.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes.
Thank you.
Resolution 2023-17, adopting internal controls policy.
Okay, so this one.
No.
So this one, I'm going to like talk, and then you guys can decide whether you would rather table it or go through with it. We in reviewing the total process that ITA and Indiana Township Association recommends, there would be a second resolution that would also be necessary. That I have uploaded onto the site, but was not on the agenda. And so that resolution is variance threshold, is regarding variance thresholds, which is simply at what amounts we would have to report if there was any like mistakes or theft, etc. And so we just took the boilerplate language that the ITA recommended we use. And that's the one that we have under 2023-23.
Okay.
This one, on 17, we also included, and I'll keep it short and brief. On the website, you'll be able to see that there is a structure for how the processes would be handled. And so what this resolution essentially does is say that we would follow this process to make sure that there's checks and balances for the different steps of the process. And so because we are a weird township, not everything would happen the same way for all processes, right? Like it would be weird if we had the same process for township assistance money as we did for fire protection money. So we divided it based on category, or I divided it based on categories as to who would be doing the okay to pay. Like for fire protection stuff, it would be Ed. For other stuff, it might be me. For some stuff, it might even be Amy on some and then it also depends on who has the first eyes on something. Some of it would be money stuff for medical supplies. The first person would be the EMS chief or the EMS captain, right?
So this actually, I can't remember, it's under Indiana Township or DL, the Department of Local Government. They actually list this,
Exactly.
and we've never had this before.
Exactly.
And to this extent.
Yeah.
And is this language just boilerplate from their recommendation, or have we made some custom tweaks?
So we use boilerplate language. Now, what we did custom tweaks to was that they had a like an example of what the lines could look like for how the processes would be organized. And so that one we changed so that it's the process that matches our municipality.
Sure.
So that's all that we did with that resolution 2023-17. It's just that we said it with, we included what it looks like for us.
Yeah.
Particularly as a municipality. But all it says is that these are the standards, these are the reasons that we're doing it. And then this is the process that we're going to try and follow to the best of our abilities. So.
Okay. Does anybody have any additional questions on that or on resolution 23 that we can append here to get the
Resolution, you mean 17?
17 and 23, which is not on the agenda, but would have the
threshold.
variance thresholds?
Mhm.
Yes. Look at that memory.
Is ready or is not ready?
It is ready. It's just not on the agenda, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just discussed it.
Yes.
Yes. And it's all
They're
boilerplate.
tied together. It's essentially the same process.
I haven't read them in detail, but frankly, when we don't have one now, I'd kind of rather vote one in so that we have something. And then if we decide that we want to tweak it later, we can always tweak it later.
Yeah.
What do you think?
But something feels better than
So-
zero.
So what we are going to do, regardless of how, after this process goes through, this is one of those resolutions that will get re-voted on a yearly basis.
Can I make a recommendation? I don't know if
Yeah.
it's in Robert's Rules of Order or not.
Go for it.
We list, can we conditionally accept this? And then wait for our next meeting so we can actually see these two tied together or not?
Well, I don't have any problem with it, like you guys can table it and that's okay.
Yeah, we could just table it.
I would.
If you'd rather read it.
That's not a,
Okay.
That's
The
not-
reason I'm doing
That's
this,
fine.
it's not because of anything that I don't think we understand. I don't want a township person to go, I didn't see this, I don't know what's
Yeah,
about.
sure. That's
Sure.
sure.
I mean, if you.
And it's only 2 weeks.
And then having them both together, having that conversation.
Yeah.
Let's,
Let's table it and then we'll come back. We're going back here in 2 weeks anyway.
good, thank you.
But it allows you guys, I thought there was a good chance that we might table this one. I just wanted you to also see it and have that conversation ahead. So.
Okay.
More comfortable, but.
I'm fine with that.
Can
All
I
right.
just review on what the report? We've tabled 15.
Mhm.
We
Yep.
adopted 13. We adopted 14. We adopted 16.
Correct.
We're now tabling 17.
We're actually going to table 17, 18, and 23.
17, 18.
Are we
Because-
doing all of those in a row right now?
Yes, let's just do that right now. So I'll make a motion to table resolutions 2023, 17, 18, and 23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There we go.
But I need to copy and paste it, so hang
That's okay.
on. So when I do them.
And they're in the agenda, so you could always say resolution 17, 18.
I'd rather get it done now.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, like, I don't know that you need the full text in the minutes even.
17, yeah. That was the other question I had. Like, I'm not gonna include the digest, but what I'll do is I'll make a note at the bottom that
Yeah.
says the digests are available in the agenda
Yeah.
and on the website. Is that
Yes.
Urban?
I think it's totally fine
Okay. Thanks.
because the agenda will be next to the minutes. I think they can reference each other. It's no problem. Okay. I will, while you catch up on notes, I'll start the discussion on 2023-19 to authorize the township to invest funds in Trust Indiana.
Is that a 2319?
Mm-hmm.
Monster Inc. 2319.
We table.
No,
Is
wait
that-
for it.
Is that the door?
No, that's the code for a child.
Oh,
Child.
that's right.
2319. Right, I'm waiting for it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had to, I'm waiting for it. Ever since I knew that it was coded as like 23 and then dashed the number of the resolution, I was like 2319. Okay.
Fine. All right.
But tell us about it, I'm sorry.
Millennials left Gen Z generation.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, you can proceed.
Yeah, well, Angel, could you tell us about Trust Indiana? I don't remember
Yes.
discussing this one explicitly.
So Trust Indiana, and there is, I'll pull it up here. I have a presentation on it or a short digest on it. So I will screen share from my device.
Who's that?
Wait, do we know who Travis is or?
No, he's talking about my photo that does not look
Oh,
like
the
me,
photo.
because it is a very
That was false
aged
advertising.
photo.
I was like, that's rude.
Called catfishing. Anyway, what?
So Trust Indiana.
Ouch.
Trust Indiana is an investment essentially pool that is set up by Indiana code to be able to allow municipalities, just municipalities and state agencies to invest funds that they have through this pool that's set up and managed by the state governments.
Like a state CD.
Essentially, they have, and they specify here, I'll jump to they can only invest and so we don't determine what we're investing in. Everybody that's investing in the pool is investing in those same things that are determined by the state agency. But the only things that they can do are bonds that are either fully guaranteed by the United States Treasury, a federal agency, a federal instrumentality, or issued by, like there, you see, again, made by a federal government entity, or money that is like AAA or AAAM rated by the major I forget what the two are, the two main but by essentially the places that the
Yeah.
entities that rate them.
So authorization to invest in a very conservative investment
Exactly.
fund. Well, how liquid is the money?
Super liquid. It is liquid. I can move it any day.
Okay.
That is one of the advantages of Trust Indiana. So like I can deposit $800,000 in there today, gain interest on a daily basis, and then if I need to pull the money tomorrow, I can do an ACH transaction to be able to move the money from the investment pool to our bank account again.
Are we paying any kind of fee to do that?
So
There's no loss criteria here, so there's nothing about losing.
So I was looking at it and I will admit that that is a piece that I'm still trying to get to grasp exactly of how we would record a loss if there happened to be a loss. But I can also tell you that in reviewing throughout its entire history, there has never been a day where this fund lost money. Just because of the type of
Yeah,
because
it's not making a lot.
because
But-
yes, it's not making a lot, but it's very secure money. So like the annual interest has ranged from 1% to 5%, which is way below what you would be doing if you were getting investments.
Okay, so
like
the
your-
question I have is, how much is there a limit that the board, or we can say that, how are we gonna limit the amount that's invested in this? So it doesn't just go 8 wide.
So and in the draft resolution that I wrote, I didn't set a limit necessarily. What we would be able to invest is only money that's on hand. And part of the reason I didn't set a limit was because I did an initial estimation of what we could do if we like set the money at like a low, if we put the money that we're not expecting to use on any particular month, we put that money away. We expect that we could probably get in the order of $10,000 to $30,000 this year in interest earned. I am comfortable with setting a limit and us or expecting to earn less money, but if that's the level of comfort of the board, that's.
I'm okay with no limit if we add it to the monthly report.
Yeah,
As long as, I'm fine with that, as long as the board approves.
yeah,
I'm fine with that as long as, yeah, as long as it's in the monthly reports, right? And then if we see like some absolutely buck wild numbers, then we could always pass a new resolution, right?
exactly. And I would say, make a second note there as well for this. This resolution would allow us to be able to spend that money, but then there will be a second thing that will be at the next board meeting, which is an investment policy. That's something that's mandatory for townships to have, and we don't have one here. So I am, the investment policy that the state that the ITA recommends is based off of the one that Fairfield Township established under Julie Roush. So we would be essentially copying and making a few tweaks here and there to that resolution. But we would need that before I can transfer money regardless of. This would be so that we can start, if I have the permission from you guys, I can start setting up the account without moving money. I would wait until we have an investment policy.
So-
to move the money.
Okay, so I need to, I'd like to ask the board here, is on this resolution, is it fine the way it's written, 23-19? Or do we need to put a caveat in there that this has, that it's going to be reviewed monthly? Are we okay with the wording as it is, or do you want to modify it?
I think I'm okay with the wording as it is because we're already getting regular budget overview.
What do you think?
So
I would like it to be called the monster sink resolution. Those are my own thoughts.
Say that again?
no, he's
It is a joke.
What I would add actually, and I would say that probably the best place to put it is in the investment policy. It could be that the trustee is required to provide monthly reports. on
That I would be
investments.
okay with. Yeah.
So like in the investment policy that you guys still need to pass before I can move money into any investment separate from this. I'll make sure to include on there a monthly report that is
That would include
necessary.
invest in Indiana.
Exactly.
Then I'm comfortable with that,
Okay.
as long as we have a capability of monitoring that. And that the board approves the expenditure of that money in any fund.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
So this is going to allow you to invest, but then we don't have an investment policy to allow you to invest anyway. So this will just kind of sit until we have that. Yes.
There isn't one.
Maybe that would cover it. I'm sorry.
Oh, Ed was suggesting, and that's not a bad idea, that at some point it would be worthwhile to do a resolution that requires what monthly reports people are to the board, the trustees to
Yeah.
provide to you guys.
Yeah. How about okay. I'm okay with voting on this and then we can workshop a quick resolution to specify what we expect in monthly reports and vote on that in 2 weeks.
Agreed.
Yeah.
With-
Okay.
With the other.
Yeah.
With the, yeah,
With the investment piece. Yes.
we've been there, right?
Yeah.
We've been in that spot where.
Yeah.
I have to give you anything.
It-
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Let's make it so that it doesn't have to be a good faith thing. We can just,
I'm
Mandate it.
looking forward to the day where like, we don't have to worry about previous experience.
We're there.
we're there. It's just good future proof.
Yeah, you have to,
You just
plan
never know.
Not, you don't have to like expect the worst, you just have to plan for a process to be expected at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
I mean,
regardless of
yeah,
who's in the
I've had
office.
plenty of experiences of having leadership change on me and then all of a sudden life goes from great to not so great in a real hurry. Okay. I will bring a motion to vote on resolution 2023-19 to authorize the township to invest funds in Trust Indiana.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passes.
Have the next meeting, you're gonna have to bring a video clip and show them what you're talking about. It'll be that much funnier.
Didn't we say you did understand?
No, he understood the Mean Girls reference.
Yeah. the-
Not the
Not the
23.
23.
Monster Bank?
The monster.
That's a
beach.
travesty.
It-
All right, Angel, would you like to talk for a 2-second overview of the township donations fund?
Okay, so I'm gonna make this about both 2023-20 and 2023-21 because they're essentially identical resolutions
For different funds.
for different funds.
Okay.
So we are just creating a fund that is where we will deposit money from donations. So we are, if there's donations that come in for fire protection services at large, there will be a fire fund donation. If there is donations in general for any purpose of the township, there's a township donations bucket. And then sub to that, you would give me the permission to create sub funds if we have to establish restricted funds. So let's say that somebody donates $1,000 explicitly for the purpose of helping people with rent. I can't go ahead and use it for any other purpose. In most companies, there's a simpler process of creating sub funds, not so much with local government. What you would have to do is create a sub fund under that account and have it be restricted.
When they're asking you, somewhere they're gonna call somebody and say, like, you got a donation, you would then please make this specific to this fund.
Exactly,
And now we've got an actual fund account that says.
exactly.
And
And so the money, even if it's in the same bank account, it's going to be separated and fund for the purpose of the counting.
Very good.
Yeah.
And so it allows us, the main reason that came about was our fire department gets donations. And historically, they have, just because we don't have the ability to do that. Trustees in the past had assumed that those donations went to the association. And so money that was donated, and it's not inherently like a ridiculous thing, they were donating it for fire protection services. The people that took donation money was the association. But like, as we move forward, as we become a more robust municipality, we want to be able to, when people pay us because we helped them install a fire department, like a fire alarm or a smoke detector, excuse me. Then that money would then come to the township and be set up in the donations fund.
So there's a couple parts to it beyond that. So what has happened in the past was any money that was donated to the fire department always went to the association, because we were always told any money that's donated that comes into the township, that the township receives, then has to be allocated. So there would have to be a separate board meeting. If we got a check for $500 for something donated to us, it would go into the bank account, and then we would have to have a meeting and have the board allocate that money where we wanted to spend it. It was a whole very convoluted process. And beyond that, some of the use of that was then tied to the fire chief or the trustee and how that money could then be spent. When the money goes through the association, if we have a big meeting that we're going to have people here for, that we want to buy dinner for, or we want to host something, that was just something that wasn't allowed. It just wasn't happening. So that was part of the conversation we had with this donation fund. Hey, we want the ability to utilize it the same way. Otherwise, we have to keep doing it the way we've been doing it. And that's a possibility to be able to do that. If somebody donates, it's very common for us to get a $200 donation for something, or if somebody passes away, they'll bring $1,000 or whatever that be. It's very common to do it. And what we're trying to avoid is the shell game that we have to play, where we put it in the association so we can spend it how we need to spend it, versus we're just trying to eliminate.
Make it a little bit more proper and
Yeah.
professional.
And so part of what the resolution text has is that money has to be used for the purpose it was donated. That's essentially reiterating what we already said, that if we're setting up restricted accounts,
Mhm.
the donor says, hey, I want my money to be used for the flooring of the fire department. It can't be used for any other purpose, that's donor intent. So we would be able
To get that, can we vote on this?
Let's do it, baby. All right. Motion to vote on resolution 2023-20 to establish Township Donations Fund.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Motion to vote on resolution 2023-21 to establish a fire department donation fund.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Getting there, baby. Resolution 2023-22 to establish a community services and education fund.
This is the last one.
This is the last one. So is that what this is, by the way? Is this like a class that we're
We're sending
setting
a
up?
class that's
Yeah.
going to be hosted here tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't come. I'm pruning in the morning.
No, you can go.
No, this is a different one.
Different thing.
That was Saturday.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's only Tuesday.
Yeah. This one is
I thought it
for
was
our
Friday for a
new
second.
AEPs and our we've got a software set that our AEDs and our Lucas device, all that stuff, we can back all that information up into a software set. So they're coming to teach us how to utilize that.
Okay.
The new software.
Is there anything that we want to talk about here or that Angel wants to briefly go over before
Yeah,
we vote?
so just a brief overview. This one, we are essentially right now currently collecting money when we provide classes to members of the public. So we do it right now for CPR classes. And so people have to pay money to be CPR certified. And so we've been receiving money for those classes and then paying out because we have to purchase those licenses or those cards.
So what fund currently does that go in?
It's currently being done out of the fire fund,
Okay.
which has a negative implication when it comes to, even though it's not actually negative in practice. And from an accounting perspective, it looks like we're spending more money than we are because we're spending money that we weren't anticipating, right? Like it just depends on how many people we're bringing in for our classes. It's how much money we have to pay once they pay us for buying a card. So it's going to affect the budget and make it seem like we are spending more money than we actually are. And it's
Because
just,
they don't see the reflection of that money coming in.
Yeah.
They just see it going out.
because the accounting only sees the reflection of the money going out.
So would there be any transfer of funds now, once this resolution goes through, the money that have gone into that fund that would now go into this education fund?
No, we would do it going forward.
Okay.
So what we would be able to do is, and right now, up to now, it's been smaller amounts for CPR classes, but we're doing a big class, like an EMT class, and that's about $1,000 per person. And so, that would be noticeable because you have to pay for instructors' fees for those classes, et cetera. And so what we're trying to do here is make sure that we have this fund that allows us to pay for training purposes. And so the money we collect is going to be used for that specific purpose, for paying instructors, paying for the equipment, paying for stuff, for training. And so that just allows us to do it. This fund wouldn't have a standard budget unless you guys decided otherwise. My suggestion, at least at this point, would be that I present same as everything. I'm going to keep presenting monthly reports in this budget too, but it wouldn't have a specific budget because it's money in, money out.
So it's just a more efficient way of watching when the money comes.
Exactly.
I
Because
see.
right now, especially for anything over here, we would just try to do that out of our training fund.
Yeah.
Which would again, we established a training fund for this year when we started it. But it will still give that idea that we're paying money out to instructors and all that stuff without money coming in. So I really like the ability
Good,
to show that reflection both ways.
good.
Yeah.
Are
Great.
we running these training sessions at cost?
For the most part, the EMT class, there will be some profit built into that for the department.
So how much, so won't profit be building up in there over time? So is there, over like, in the future, will we be allocating another purpose for this fund to be using that profit for other things?
So, yeah,
We could do that in the future.
Yeah, if the money were to build up at that point, then we could allocate money or transfer money from this fund to a different fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be able to use it for expenses.
That all makes sense.
We could
Yeah.
do the donation fund to be used.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I like it. Okay, motion to vote on resolution 2023-22 to establish a community services and education fund.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next,
Did that.
that's all the new business. Next meeting is 2 weeks from today, same time. We will adopt the budget resolution. We will adopt the tabled resolutions from today, and we will have a new resolution that will talk about monthly reporting
Yes.
requirements.
I do have a question under item 17, future meeting dates. The future meeting dates
Is that too
are
close? to-
passed.
What?
Huh?
October 17th is 2 weeks from now.
I've got February 21st.
You are probably looking at the original version on Hell sent. I sent back an updated version.
Oh.
We're looking at it right here. Yes, that was one of the things that I
Yeah,
caught and
that's right.
corrected.
I'd forgotten by this.
He copied an old one and I fixed a couple of things. All right, announcements. Anybody got anything to say?
I'd like to give a round of whatever to the township volunteers and firemen who helped with Nelson's. That was another hugely successful adventure.
Next week, we have this weekend, in addition to the fire ops training that you two are going to. Is also a piece of the Hunter's Moon, and so our fire department will be there as always, providing the messages.
It's gonna be a ridiculous week for sure.
Lord, I don't know that I have the energy for the feast this year.
Spend as much time out there as we do.
I just, with a 2.5-year-old, I just can't, like, she's just so cranky lately.
It's fun, but I guess the only thing that I would want to say, and outcome wise, is just I really appreciate your guys' time investing yourselves into what's happening with all the stuff. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that we're trying to do, not just the fire department, but the township in general. And it'd be really easy to have an interest in this position if you were just coasting, right? And it was just looking at numbers and everything being okay, but I appreciate your guys' willingness to dive into stuff that maybe some folks wouldn't want to do. And you know, talking about our raises, I know that on the surface, it sounds like a lot of money. And it is a lot of money, but on the surface, it looks like it's just, you ask for people, then you ask for money. And the reality is it's just going up around us everywhere.
Mhm.
And the more, I was more nauseated by the study that was done for us by the state union than I was anything.
I can pass you guys that. I know we didn't talk about that, but
I mean, we saw the rate comparison, so I assume it's a lot of similar data to that.
Yeah, we grilled them on it.
It was worse than we thought. I mean, it was a lot worse than I thought. I knew the people around us make quite a bit more money than us, but when they started comparing us to organizations in other counties, other townships that are the same size as us, it was
way behind.
it's nauseating. But at the same time, you can't take all of that on at once. So the guys know it's a process, and I think we've got the right folks on board today that's going to stick with us through this. And you know, we can do a 20% raise, but we do a 20% raise, and Purdue does a 10% raise. And you know, it's just that process is going to continue. But
10, Lafayette's doing 8.
Yeah, we'll just keep an eye on it. And if you start, in particular, if you start having flight risks because of it, let us know.
Yeah.
That's the reason, really, right? Like you can't, the churn is extremely costly in a position with so much training. So,
and I think you get to a place where you have the right people, and while none of us are doing it for the money, none of us are doing this job to get rich by any means. Especially when younger guys have got a family and they start watching that, they start seeing those processes open and they see the amount of money in their head, hey, I'm doing the same job someplace else and I can make 20 grand more a year, 30 grand more a year. I mean, but a lot of the folks are here doing foundational sort of work. They want to build, they're excited about it. And I think we've got the right folks there. We got the right folks in here. And I think it's a really awesome time to be a part of what's happening here. So I appreciate you guys very, very much.
We're
Gotcha.
seeing that at the sheriff's office, the pay for the jailers, correction officers, and road deputies are at a certain level. And right now, the state police, I got a meeting with them on Friday. I can't remember exactly what the base pay now is, but it's got to go up to somewhere between $125,000 and $140,000 starting out. When I talked to the captain here yesterday with the sheriff's office, he said there are already 15 people down in the jail, which means everybody else is working more for the same amount of money. And they're already anticipating there's going to be, like what you're concerned about, is they already know those people because they've got experience. They're already gone to law academy. And they're just gonna go to state police and make $35,000-$40,000.
yeah, why wouldn't you? Everybody is so understaffed.
Well,
Like there's so many open positions. It'd be so easy to jump ship.
That's the public safety trend, though. That's what they do. I mean, 15 years ago, the state police was losing all of their people to all these counties and cities, and they just flopped back and forth. And the same thing happened with the fire departments. I mean, people want to work though, and we've got this advantage. You know, you guys have heard us talk about our trying to transition our ALS non-transport. We've got a lot of folks that want to work as medics but don't want to be stuck on an ambulance, and that's a huge draw for us. And we're moving that way. That was a part of the update I was going to give. But we're getting there, and we think by the end of the year we'll be there, but I think that's something that will help us retain people, because they want to maintain that affiliation, they want to work. So you have to offer, if you don't have money, you have to be able to offer other things, and I think we've got a lot of opportunity in that too, you know, in our insurance, and there's just a lot of things we can do. And it's just getting really creative, so.
Yeah.
It's just being able to pivot, and I think we're working on it.
One last question is, we've done this before where we had town hall meetings. Obviously for past reasons, but we've had really good comments on when we have the superintendent of schools came over and everything else, and the area plan commission. Is there something that we should be looking at? I know the area plan commission's got some new plans out and trails and anticipated development. Is there something that you think the township residents we should present to them, because there's no other means for them to get it unless they go onto the area plan site or whatever? Is there something we should be doing?
So probably the one that I anticipate, and I was waiting until we got like the finalized plan. There's the land use plan that's coming out. I would anticipate that it would be beneficial for us to invite them to come over to the November meeting. Now, looking at that, I do want to make a note of that. Do we want to meet on the 21st or the 14th? I'll be out of the country either time, but I will still zoom in. But that the 21st is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Do we want to move that to the 14th?
Yeah, I just went blind on the third Tuesday. But I'm happy to move that up.
You said November 14th?
Mhm.
I have a board meeting, which will.
I have a team of maybe.
Okay, are you guys both available on the 21st? If you guys are available, I'll be in India, so I'll still be able.
Or
to
we could do the 28th.
Doesn't have to be a Tuesday.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. It's easier for me, but I can
Whatever you guys want.
be flexible.
I can do the week after.
Okay. I'll still be out, but I'm doing a 3-week vacation to India for the first time ever.
Nice.
Must be nice to take vacation, but yeah, I got it.
I've got us listed on the 24th for some reason.
That's because it's our standard
Yeah.
third Tuesday.
Either that or we push it to December 5th to
We-
wait till everybody's back in
We
town.
could do December 5th if you guys.
I don't think there's any urgency to that meeting once we've adopted the budget.
I'm cool.
I agree.
And we're gonna knock out a couple of our to-dos in the next meeting in 2 weeks anyway.
Okay.
All right,
But the
so we'll
next
call that
meeting-
December 5th.
And our next meeting is October 17th.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then after that, it'll be December 5th. And then everybody's back in town. We can just
And then it
resume
would
normal
be,
operations.
after that, it would be January. We wouldn't need, I wouldn't anticipate we need 2 meetings in December anyway.
Yeah.
We're anyway skipping to every 2 months.
Yeah.
So the next one would be on the first Tuesday of January.
Right.
That's a statutory meeting.
Yep.
And then or the first Tuesday after the first.
Yeah.
But then that statutory meeting, and then after that, we would be jumping into annual report season. So,
Cool.
So is there, you're talking about having something like the ABC come and talk. When would we do that?
we can do that on the 5th, December 5th.
December 5th.
I
That's what I heard.
I'll reach out to Ryan O'Gara to ask him.
I think that's gonna, and we need to announce that somehow, how we get the word out to.
I know that it's been something, at least since you've come on board, you've had a lot of interest in trying to find some way to get people here to the meeting. I don't think it's bad, and it might be best coming from the three of you guys coming up, putting your heads together. Figuring out if there's somebody you want to come, we could schedule it, doing it every other month.
We could
Being able to schedule somebody different to come and talk at those meetings may not be a bad idea.
I think it gets them involved if they
Oh,
know
yeah.
it's just not this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, to find, whatever it be, fill in the blank, if they're gonna do, county highway, if they're doing all this construction on Morehouse Road and all that stuff when they're done over, it wouldn't be bad to have somebody, something scheduled for each meeting for somebody to just pop in and talk. So-
And we can go ahead and do that. That's not a bad idea. As you guys know, Jaeger, there's 4 developments coming up on Jaeger. I know I've mentioned to you guys, I think all of those developments will likely add at least 10 to 15% to our population as of right now.
Mhm.
And those are all in our service area. Now, even though we're the first responder, if there were a serious fire incident particularly, we would get quick assistance from West Lafayette because their station is located there, but we're still the primary response. get out of those areas, so.
Yeah.
that was-
That would show in that plan use thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. I think that's good. And then so yeah, if we can, because we can do them further out, if we can get them scheduled soon, then we could share some information on Facebook. And then we could repost it a week before and then like a day before the meeting or something, whatever cadence works
Yeah.
best.
Sure.
Somebody else will have to do
And
that.
we'll be able to, with the new
I'd rather do
website,
Facebook from Orb.
with the new website, we'll also be able to do some of that stuff too, and we'll have calendars that people can subscribe to for our meetings and stuff like that. We're still finalizing some of that work with the new website. It takes time, as you guys know, but.
Yeah.
But it's already been, we've improved a lot of what's available there and brought the fire department website under the same umbrella, which it wasn't before, so
Yeah.
we just.
So we could always do it. We could try to do a test run for December. If it doesn't happen then we could just make it a regular thing where if we meet in January, then we could start March, May, et cetera,
Mhm.
get them ahead of time. Use the website properly. Yeah. Okay.
Ed, you monitor this, are you seeing an increase in crime statistics in the last couple of years in the township?
I've actually talked to Bob Goldsmith about it a little bit to see what they're showing. They've got some really cool new technology that they can heat map and they can plot all this stuff. We've just kind of high level overview discussed it and with all the all the growth that we've had, there's not been that much of an uptick. But most of it's new build, it's all new construction stuff and, so it's not had that really trickle down effect yet, but it will. I mean, no different than some of these subdivisions that are built and then within 6 or 8 years are all rentals.
So we see shooting in the Walmart, we see shooting
Yep.
12th Street, 6th Street. And I worry that it's coming this way. You never used to see that amount of gun violence and now it's routine.
So we will see it more. The subdivisions like Hunter Road, those subdivisions that were building out in terms of they were turning rental are very quickly turning rental for the ones that weren't, because a lot of those folks are building homes in the newer subdivision. They want to stay in the community, they want to stay in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they're building a new home and they're not offloading those houses. They'll keep them and use them as rentals, or they'll sell them to BK Management or somebody like that that's taking care of those. So it's going to happen more. But I think that we just haven't experienced enough. I think we're probably a couple years behind,
It's all new build and the
before we start to see
people
a
who
lot.
are coming in all they're moving here because they got jobs,
That's
they got
exactly
money, like that's not a high crime
I think if we
population.
were on the other side of the river, it would be a much different conversation.
Yeah.
But
Oh, okay.
I didn't see number 23 included in the agenda, so I'm just gonna delete it. from the-
Number 23, we talked about because it wasn't in the agenda, but it was tied to 17.
I'm just gonna delete it. from
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
minutes.
That's fine. That's fine. It'll come up next meeting and we'll have it next meeting. Okay. Move to adjourn. All in favor? All right. Meeting is over as of 8:23 PM.
I'm gonna go grab
Remember.
all of these